Hello, thank you for watching this video. We are going to be covering everything related to student organization travel. Again, this is part of the Certified User Training series. So this is video 2. The first is student organization finances, then student organization travel, and then event planning. We also have other videos on YouTube related to filling out forms and other aspects of OWL Connect. So please make sure to check out those videos as well so you are as informed as possible. All student organization travel starts with OWL Connect. So you have to put in your event request or your travel request through OWL Connect as an event. Again, there is a YouTube video that shows you how to register your event, so please make sure to check that out if you don't already know how to do it. But if your club knows that in September you want to go to a conference or a day trip or something the next month, then start now and put it into OWL Connect. From there, depending on what type of travel it is, will dictate your next steps. So if your travel is in-state and it involves less than $25 or no money at all from your club's account, and it is not overnight, with the OWL Connect event form, you will then submit a travel roster, and every participant then needs to sign an assumption of risk form. The travel roster can be found in the campus links section on OWL Connect, and I'll show you later on in this video how to get there. And there's also assumption of risk forms that you can download and make copies of to share with your club members. We also have hard copies available in the resource room, Student Center room 217. If your travel is in-state, it involves more than $25 and it's overnight, you will then do the OWL Connect form, and then you have to do a travel authorization form. Now, this travel authorization form should be submitted at least 30 days in advance of travel. This is what the travel authorization form looks like. There is a video on YouTube, again, that shows you in detail, step by step, how to fill out this form. This travel authorization form needs to be filled out either by the faculty or staff advisor that will be going on the trip if it is required, or by the student leader who will be leading the group of students. Typically, this would be an executive board member. So this travel authorization form asks things about who the main traveler is, where you are going, how you're getting there, why you're going. So this is the objective and necessity of travel section. What accounts you will be using to pay, what you need to pay for, so lodging and what the grand total is. Then the traveler signs it. If your advisor is going to be going, they would sign as the advisor. Their supervisor would then sign it. And if they are a faculty member, the dean or VP of their school that they are part of needs to sign it as well. So once the traveler, supervisor, and dean signs it, you bring it back to our office, and our department director will sign it as the budget authority. So we ask this 30 days in advance because there are a lot of people that will need to sign this depending on the type of travel. If it's just a student organization leader that's going to be filling out this trip and assuming the role as the travel leader, then they just need to sign it and then bring it back to our office, and the director will sign it. But if a faculty member needs to travel, their direct supervisor and the dean or VP of the school needs to sign it as well. Again, please watch that YouTube video to get in-depth, step-by-step, how to fill out the travel authorization form. Once the travel authorization form is complete, you will then need to do the necessary payment documents related to your travel. So if there are airline tickets that need to be paid for, hotel rooms, anything that needs to get paid for, whether by check or by credit card, you're going to be doing the corresponding payment request form or P card request forms to pay for that. And again, you should be doing that in advance, ideally 15 to 30 days in advance of your travel. Obviously, if it's flights that you need to pay for, typically the longer you wait, the more expensive the flights will be. So doing that paperwork 30 days in advance or more than that would be the best route to take. And then you'd submit the travel roster and the assumption of risk forms. If your travel is out of state, it involves more than $25, but it is not overnight. Or if it's out of state, involves $25 and is also overnight, you'd do the same steps as you would for in-state, more than $25 and overnight. So anytime, a best way to think about this, anytime that you need to use money or it's out of state, any of those two conditions, you automatically need to do a travel authorization form. And the last column, if your travel is out of state, there's no money involved, and it's not overnight, you still need to do the travel authorization form because it's out of state, but then you wouldn't need to do any payment documents because you're not paying for anything. But the first step is going with OwlConnect. Once you submit your event, you would get an email response that outlines all these steps. And your next step should be to meet with Charlene Camersana, our Assistant Director in Student Involvement that oversees all club finances and travel, and working with her closely to making sure you're completing all the steps necessary. And if there are any specific nuances to your particular type of travel, she'll help you navigate all the different things and elements that you need to do to complete the process successfully. This is our recommended travel planning timeline. Preliminary planning would be probably right at the start of the semester. So let's say we want to take a trip in the end of November or December as a club. In September, very early September, we're talking about where we're going, how much it's going to cost, who will be attending, if an advisor is required to attend or not. And we're setting up a meeting with Char to talk about what we want to do and what our goals are for the trip. 2 to 3 months in advance, you are submitting your event onto OwlConnect. You are requesting funding if you need funding, and we'll talk about that. And you're starting to do your travel authorization form, which needs to be submitted at least 30 days in advance. 1 month to 3 weeks in advance, you are checking in with student involvement in regards to your funding status. You're purchasing plane tickets, bus tickets, etc. You're confirming hotel rooms or registering hotel rooms, registering participants for the conference. And if there's a travel advance or any other type of money advance that you need, you are completing that as well. 1 week before travel, you are just confirming everything. You're reviewing all aspects of the itinerary. You're collecting all the assigned assumption of risk forms from your club members and dropping those off in the Office of Student Involvement. And you're just making sure everything is good to go. After travel, if you did get a cash advance or a travel advance, you're depositing those funds. If an advisor attended and needs to get reimbursed, your advisor will be completing the CO17XP form to get reimbursed for anything they paid out of pocket, and you're debriefing the trip with all of your participants. We recommend making sure that those that are traveling on behalf of your organization represent all different classes. So a good mix of freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors, because then that promotes the longevity and the sustainability of your organization. If someone is going out to get information, they're going to be here long enough to see it through. So a conference trip with all seniors doesn't necessarily benefit the organization because they're going to graduate and no one's going to pass that information along. So really think about who's going on the trip and then coming back and talking about how we can better our organization based on what we learned. If you are in need of funding for a trip, SAFAC does provide funding. The Student Activity Fee Allocation Committee does provide funding for club and organizations. There are 3 different types of travel that they will fund: major conference, minor, and educational day trips. So major conferences are things that include significant travel. You have to fly there, or it's a long train ride. Hotel stay is required. It's overnight. So this type of travel would be considered major conference. It's also maybe considered the national conference for your organization if you're nationally affiliated with another organization. So SAFAC will fund up to $1,500 every other academic year. There must be a minimum of 4 full-time undergraduate students that are participating, and the funding can be applied to travel, lodging, and registration. Funding cannot be applied to ground transfers, so taxis. It cannot go towards meals and refreshments, social excursions, or social receptions or pre-conference costs. So that $1,500 can only go towards travel, lodging, and registration. And you determine as an organization where you want that $1,500 to go. If you want the $1,500 to go all towards travel, you can absolutely do that, or all towards the hotel. You choose where you want it to go. Minor conferences are things that are maybe within the Northeast. It's a 1 to 2 hour drive. You do not have to stay overnight. It's considered the regional conferences for your organization. So SAFAC will fund up to $500 every academic year. There must be a minimum of 10 full-time undergraduate students that are participating. And the funding can go towards travel and registration. And just like major conferences, it cannot go towards meals, social excursions, receptions, ground travel, etc. Educational day trips. So these are day trips that maybe an org is taking to New York or to Boston, a quick bus drive or a carpool drive there. You're coming back the same day to a museum, whatever it may be. So this is a max of $300 per semester. You can get up to $300 per semester for an educational day trip. A minimum of 10 full-time undergraduate students must participate. The funding is limited 1 per semester, so 1 educational day trip per semester. The funding will only go towards travel and registration. And the trip must be related to the organization's specific purpose and mission. And the trip should be advertised through OWL Connect. If there is a case where an advisor must attend, and we'll get into when an advisor needs to attend, the cost of the travel and conference and lodging will be covered by SGA, but the advisor must travel with the student group. They must stay with the student group. But same things, the funding for advisors cannot go towards the ground transportation, meals, refreshments, social excursions, etc. But the travel, the registration, and the hotel stay for an advisor will be covered at 100%, and it will not eat into the other money that you'll be receiving. So you'd get $1,500 for your major conference and the additional amount of the cost of the advisor. And with all travel funding requests, we ask that students make the most fiscally responsible decision. So making sure that you're doing your due diligence of finding a hotel at the best rate, finding the best rate for flights, and not just picking something because it looks very nice. But all this can go through SAFAC. So SAFAC requests must be submitted 30 days in advance of travel, at least 30 days in advance of travel. If you do not submit it 30 days in advance, they will not review it and it will automatically be denied. You can find the SAFAC funding request form on OwlConnect homepage, click on Forms, and then you can click the Start button to start your SAFAC funding request. All of your funding requests and travel authorization forms, payment request forms need to have justification documents attached to it. So you're including information about the conference you're attending. You're including printouts of how much the hotel costs, how much flights cost. You have to include justification for all the dollar amounts that you are requesting. And you attach that to the SAFAC form as well as the travel authorization form. So all of your documents you're submitted related to travel, you have to have justification documents along with it. So that includes invoices, quotes, printouts from travel websites, whatever it may be. Where are you getting your dollar amounts from? Advisor travel. So student clubs and organizations are not required to be accompanied by a university advisor for overnight travel or daytime travel. It is not absolutely required. An advisor must attend when the travel is international, when all three of these conditions are met. So it's out of state, it's overnight, and there are more than 8 students. So if you are going to Boston for an overnight conference and there are only 7 students participating, you do not need an advisor. But if you're going overnight to Boston with 10 students, an advisor must be present. So it has to be all 3 conditions, not 2 out of the 3, not 1, but all 3 of these conditions are met. And an advisor is required to go if there are any risks that are associated with the travel. And so our director and the dean of students will make that call as to whether or not an advisor is required to participate in a trip based on risk. Who can travel with a club? So students must be full-time and matriculated to participate in travel, in-state or out-of-state. So if you are full-time student and you are working towards a degree, so not that you have your major declared, but you are working towards a bachelor's degree, you're not just taking classes for the experience, you can travel with a club. If there are any part-time students that want to travel with a club, they need to purchase the university accident insurance. This is not the same thing as having your own personal health insurance. This is liability insurance that you have to purchase through the university. So if there are any part-time students in your club that want to go on a trip, please have them reach out to the Office of Student Involvement and we will connect them with the insurance company to purchase the insurance necessary for them to participate. I just want to go back to OwlConnect really quickly to show you where you can find your documents. But on the home page, if you scroll down to the Campus Link section, Office Student Involvement Resources and Printable Forms, open the Travel Documents and Forms section. All the SAFAC guidelines, funding guidelines are here. There's assumption of risk forms that you can download and print. The employee reimbursement forms for advisors that spend money during travel. If you need travel advance money, the form is right here. The travel authorization form is here, and the travel roster is here as well for you to download and fill out to include with any paperwork related to your travel. So that's everything related to travel. One big takeaway is remembering doing things in advance. Plan in advance. And your magic number is 30 days in advance is the bare minimum, especially if you are looking for funding. Meeting with Char or Charlene Camersana is really an important thing for you to do, so you have the support of our office and someone walking you step by step, especially if there's something different about your particular type of travel, and you have that extra support right from the beginning. So that is all that we have. Again, please feel free to come to the Office of Student Involvement if you have any question and need any extra support. And make sure that if you are trying to complete the certified user status process, that you have watched the student organization finance video, and your next step is to watch the event planning video.